Ladies and gentlemen, may I invite you to please take seats. So like I was saying, the road to sustainability demands deeper innovation in both business models and regulation, and that is going to be deliberated upon in this session of great importance. So we are being joined by the moderator of this session, who's joining us on stage now, Shri Alok Kumarji, the DG AIDA and former Secretary Ministry of Power, taking his place on the dais. A very warm welcome to you, sir. And the chair for this session, Shri Pankaj Agarwal, Secretary Ministry of Power, is going to be seated here on the sofas with us, though actively participating, and he's going to be chairing the special plenary session. So we thank you, sir, and your visionary leadership continues to guide the national agenda on power reforms, renewable integration and digitalization. And so we're honored to have you preside this session. Now, let me also call on Mr. Himanshu Chawla, Head Regulatory Power Foundation of India, to kindly join us on the dais. Can we get them seated on the dais? Dignitaries, Mr. Ashish Kumar Goel, Dr. Ashish Kumar Goel, the Chairman, UPPCL and General Secretary, AIDA. And speakers, Shri P. Ravi Kumar, Chairperson, Karnataka ERC, Dr. Srikant Nagulapalli, DG Power Foundation of India and Additional Secretary, Ministry of Power, Government of India. Shri Gajendra Tiwari, Member, MPERC. Shri Nilesh Kane, Chief Transmission and Mumbai Distribution, Tata Power Company. Shri Abhishek Ranjan, CEO, BRPL. And Shri D. Radhakrishna, former Chairperson, Tripura ERC. May I invite you to please take your place on the dais. So Dr. Ashish Kumar Goel, Chairman UPPCL and General Secretary AIDA, is just on his way. He's going to be joining the panel shortly. Ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, our moderator for this session is also seated on the dais, Shri Alok Kumarji, DG AIDA and former Secretary Ministry of Power. And our eminent panelists are all here. So we also need to get back in our seats and not miss this very pertinent conversation. So please be seated. And we are indeed grateful to Shri Pankaj Agarwalji, the Secretary, Ministry of Power, Government of India, who's chairing this session. He's presiding this discussion, although seated on the sofas in front. And I request you all, ladies and gentlemen, to please be seated. Please, ladies and gentlemen, may I invite you all to please take seats. Now, the agenda of this session, let me just apprise you a little bit. We've got our chair seated on the sofas, Shri Pankaj Agarwal, Secretary, Ministry of Power. We have our moderator, Shri Alok Kumarji, DG AIDA and former Secretary, Ministry of Power. We have our presenters on stage. We have our speakers on stage. So first, of course, the moderator will set context, and thereafter we will begin with presentations, and the presenters will set the stage for today's dialogue on the evolving regulatory and business frameworks critical for the sustainability of DISCOMs. And thereafter, again, it will be in the hands of Shri Kumar. He's going to also deliberate on a discussion with the panelists. And the panelists are all here. May I invite you all to please now be seated. So seated on the dais, we have Shri Alok Kumarji, DG AIDA and former Secretary, Ministry of Power, our moderator for this session. Our speakers, our presenters, Shri Himanshu Chawla, Head Regulatory Power Foundation of India, and Dr. Ashish Kumar Goel, Chairman, UPPCL and General Secretary, AIDA. Thereafter, there will be a discussion with our panelists. Shri P. Ravi Kumar, Chairperson, Karnataka ERC. Dr. Srikant Nagulapalli, DG Power Foundation of India and Additional Secretary, Ministry of Power, Government of India. Shri Gajendra Tiwari, Member, MPERC. Shri Nilesh Kane, Chief Transmission and Mumbai Distribution, Tata Power Company. Shri Abhishek Ranjan, CEO, BRPL. And Shri D. Radhakrishna, former Chairperson, Tripura ERC. And of course, our Chair presiding this session, Shri Pankaj Agarwal, Secretary, Ministry of Power, seated on the sofas in front. So ladies and gentlemen, can we quickly just make our way and settle in, please? Thank you very much. We cannot miss this discussion, the most pertinent discussion of the day, a very special plenary session. And with that, so shall we start? I request our moderator, Shri Alok Kumarji, to kindly take over the proceedings.
Thanks a lot. We are beginning. Am I audible? I'm not. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So good afternoon. I'm very happy to convene this session, and really humbled to have such a distinguished panel and distinguished chair for this session. Uh, we are running almost more than 1 hour late, so my job also to see that we are able to do very meaningful discussion in the time given to us. I think we should first begin with the two presentations, and thereafter I will request our chairperson, Pankaj Agarwal ji, to speak, and then the panelists. So I feel the context setting has been done in the inaugural. There's no need to repeat those issues. We all know the centrality of the viability of the DISCOMs and what to do, what new models, new initiatives can be taken up. So, without wasting time, I request the Power Foundation of India, Shri Himanshu Chawla ji, if he can come and make his presentation. Shri Himanshu Chawla. Yeah, you're welcome, Himanshu. And it is great that PFI is doing great work. We launched 4 reports and 3 reports from Power Foundation of India.
Yes.
So, may I request that you can make a presentation in 10 minutes or so, please?
Yes, sure, sir.
Please, sir, please start.
Can we have the presentation on the screen? So, a very good morning to respected dignitaries on the dais, respected seniors, and my dear colleagues. Power Foundation of India, I'll just very quickly demonstrate how Power Foundation of India is working and what all activities we have undertaken since past few years. It is a registered society under the aegis of Ministry of Power, and it was set up in 2021. We undertake evidence-based research to facilitate informed decision-making by the regulators, ministry, and other concerned stakeholders. There is a steering council and a governing council. A steering council is headed by the chairperson is Honorable Minister of Power. And governing council, we have representatives from various CPSUs of the power sector, which manages and administers affairs of the society. These are the recent engagements with a few of the organizations, with CA, Prayas, AIDA, ASCII, Bloomberg, FSR, CPI, BACS, and Tata Power. Various other MOU signings are in progress. So today we have launched 3 of our reports out of the 7 reports which we have completed. The first one was the incidence of electric bus charging pattern, and for this we are highly thankful to BACS and Tata Power, who provided us half-hour actual feeder level data for an year, and also the power purchase quantum and the cost data, because of which this report has come up in a good shape, and it is a practical insight of how DISCOM can reduce its power purchase cost by optimizing the electric bus charging pattern, which happens in the peak time. So this charging, which is an intermittent load, it coincides with the peak demand of the DISCOMs, during which period the DISCOMs rely upon the costly short-term power purchase. Tomorrow we have a detailed session on this report itself. Next is the real cost of renewable energy and storage and agri-photovoltaics. This is one of the another critical activity which Power Foundation of India undertakes, is the regulatory support to all the state commissions in the distribution tariff filing processes. As a concerned stakeholder, very recently on the true-up petitions of FY 23-24 and ARR of FY 25-26, PFI was party to all these proceedings. We attended the public hearings, and we recasted a parallel ARR model for all these utilities present in the India, and we submitted our inputs to the commission. And we are very glad, I'm very glad, feeling proud to announce that majority of our suggestions were incorporated in the tariff order which has been issued by the state commissions. So apart from this distribution tariff petitions, we also provide our inputs on the draft regulations pertaining to tariff, renewables, open access, etc. And our suggestions are recorded in the statement of reasons issued with the final regulations by the state commissions. Other engagements of PFI, as Alok sir was talking in the inaugural session, related to the capacity building program of the officers of DISCOMs, GENCOs and TRANSCOs. So the first is the regional regulatory workshop, for which we have tied up with ASCII, where, and the very first workshop is going to happen in the next week itself at ASCII campus, Hyderabad. And this workshop is entirely funded by PAR Foundation, where we would wish that the officers of SCRCs, DISCOMs and GENCOs, they gain insights of best international and national practices during this workshop. So for the Western region, it will happen in the month of January. So on behalf of PFI, I request MSCDCL, Tata Power Company and Adani to kindly, and MERC to kindly send your nominations for the said workshop. Another important activity which we have undertaken is setting up a chair professorship at ISC Bangalore, considering the need of the hour as to what technologies would be required for us to be energy independent. So this is the focus area of the chair, and this MOU has been signed recently with Indian ISC Bangalore. Next critical activity is the rating regulatory performance of all states and union territories. As we all know, there is a DISCOM rating which is being undertaken by PFC, and that is based on the audited accounts. This regulatory rating is considering the regulatory accounts of issued by the SCRCs, its compliances with MOP rules and all. And very recently, we gave presentation to all SCRCs and state power departments on the draft report, and very soon this report would be launched. So now coming on to the session, policy and regulatory interventions for DISCOMs sustainabilities. So on behalf of PFI, I would be discussing few of the current challenges which is being faced by the power sector. We all know DISCOMs are heavily regulated, right from the starting phase of granting a license under sections 12 to 24, sectorial development in the form of energy transition, competition in the form of open access, which is regulated under section 40 to 86, tariff, formulation of tariff regulations, determination of tariff, cost plus, competitive bidding, even procedure of tariff orders, all these are controlled by SCRCs. Even the consumer services under the standard of performance also is being decided by the regulator. Over past few years, we have seen there is an operational improvement in the overall structure of the DISCOM through reduction of AT&C losses. But financial losses have increased a lot. We can see from 2019 to 24, AT&C have dipped from 22 to 16%, whereas financial losses have increased from 4.77 lakh crores to roughly 7 lakh crores. And net worth has worsened from negative 63 to roughly 1.75 lakh crores. So I would request in today's session, the whole deliberations can be made up considering the core agenda of this session as to how make the DISCOMs financially viable. So considering this, we have identified 3-4 parameters. There are basically two sets of parallel accounts which are operating in the system, and here I would like to take forward the suggestion provided by Chairperson UPPCL sir in the inaugural session. There are audited accounts and regulatory accounts. As per the audited accounts, there is financial losses which we have discussed, roughly 7 lakh crores. But as per the regulatory accounts, the regulatory assets, even if we consider the Tamil Nadu case, because in the last tariff order it has been mentioned Tamil Nadu regulatory assets will be borne by the government of Tamil Nadu. So even considering the Tamil Nadu, the regulatory assets as recognized by Commission cumulatively is 1,70,000. So now this is the basic or fundamental difference which arises in the whole setup. On the one hand, audited account says 7 lakh crores. On other hand, the regulatory account says roughly 1.7 lakh crores regulatory assets. Now, which accounts are better reflection of the performance of a DISCOM? If we go truly as per the audited accounts and pass it in the form of tariff in the cost, then inefficiencies will also be passed in the tariff which will be borne by the consumers at large. So, Section 61G of the Act currently it states that tariff progressively reflects the cost of supply of electricity. In the draft amendment, the word progressively has been removed, and now it is the cost of supply of electricity. But still, a very critical and pertinent question still remains: which cost? Whether it should be audited cost or it should be the approved cost by the regulator. Because there is a huge difference between the actual cost as reflected in the P&L, which is being claimed by the DISCOM in the true-up petition and as allowed by the Commission. Here, Power Foundation, we have analyzed all states as what are the prime reasons for variation between these two accounts. And when we talk about the cost reflective tariff, which cost should be considered? Because this whole thing is, in our view, is responsible for the financial turnaround of the DISCOM. If we see 4 or 5 major aspects, O&M, as per reflected in the audited accounts, it is employee cost, A&G cost, and repair and maintenance cost. But this O&M, when it is being allowed by the regulator, it is on the normative basis, considering per unit sales, what percentage of GFA and all these things. So we have analyzed 4 or 5 states which have been recently recognized in the Supreme Court judgment of the regulatory assets. And we found there is a variation of roughly 2,000 crores in the O&M actual versus O&M approved for latest audited of FY 23-24. The similar differences are there in the financing charges, in the distribution loss penalties, and one important and critical parameter is the LPSC part. LPSC for 4 states which we have analyzed, as per reflected in the books of accounts, is an expenditure translating to 10,000 crores, but it is never allowed by the regulator. And that delta reflects as the financial losses of the DISCOM. Even on the revenue part also, this difference between the actual and normative goes on. As was pointed in the inaugural session, there is a huge variation in the government dues. So we have analyzed one state where government dues are translating to roughly 2,000 crores. Now, when these dues are there, the collection efficiency of a DISCOM dips without any fault of the DISCOM. But when it is being allowed by the regulator, it is being allowed on the normative basis. So again, that delta creeps as the financial losses of the DISCOM in the books. Now, this is the important thing which was discussed in the inaugural session, and through numbers, I would like to highlight something. Outstanding government dues up till FY24 is roughly 83,000 crores. And outstanding government subsidy is roughly 42,000 crores. Now, what happens when these two things accumulate? It results into huge cash crunch of DISCOMs, which even cannot be offset through FPPAs also. Now, on the one hand, as per the commitment of PPAs, DISCOMs are bound to make payments on time, else it will attract 18% LPSC. And all these LPSCs not allowed by the regulator, which is being demonstrated earlier in the presentation. Now, but their revenue is shortfall because of subsidy, because of government dues.
Please, quickly.
Yes, sir, sure, sir. Now, on the other hand, due to this government dues, their actual working capital has increased, but the normative working capital is allowed by regulator only to the fine extent. For example, we have analyzed 3 states. 900 crores is the normative working capital, whereas actual working capital, which they have undertaken to offset all these things, is roughly 7,000 crores. So that delta 6,000 crores is never allowed in the tariff. So which cost, audited or approved cost, should be considered for determining the cost reflective tariff? That is a discussion point which can be taken up. Next is the Supreme Court judgment. Here we have analyzed the impact of the judgment as the tariff hike across the states, which ranges from 17% to 70%. And here we can discuss upon what could be the various ways to reduce case loads to the quasi-judicial bodies and improve efficiency in the disposal of the cases. Because the moment an appeal is filed before the superior authority and its judgment comes, there is a time lag of 5 to 6 years. And during this 5 to 6 years, the impact of carrying cost, which is compounding in nature, is huge. For example, we see the 10,000 crores principal becomes 18,000 crores after 6 years of time period. And all this cost is being loaded onto the consumers at large. Next critical parameter is the unmetered sales. So unmetered sales, we have to expedite the metering measures. Next important amendment which has come in the draft bill is the deregulation of above 1 megawatt consumers. Now, can this be a game changer? Because the cross subsidy for HT and LT is roughly only 1.3 lakh crores and the government subsidy in total is 3 lakh crores. So if that is being borne by the government and if these set of consumers go out of the system, so could this be a game changer? But one critical thing which will come in this part is when the PPAs are being shed by the DISCOMs due to eventual exit of such consumers, costly PPAs will go out of the market first, which eventually will be paid, will be utilized by such megawatt consumers to procure from the market. So a cost-benefit analysis here again goes, because these 1 megawatt consumers are cross-subsidizing consumers. They are cross-subsidizing this. So revenue neutrality, how it will be maintained for subsidized consumers in the existing system. Judicious energy transition is the need of the hour. Here in one of the report, we have highlighted how agro PV, which is a large scale, without the impact of transmission losses and charges, can be an effective energy transition element. And also, transmission losses can be linked to the transmission charges because now they have increasing a lot. And in the another sector, generation and the distribution, already since past many years, the losses are linked to the revenue mechanism, but in transmission, it is not yet there. Only the availability factor, NATF, is linked to transmission charges and not losses. So here we have analyzed few states, and we have seen even reduction of 1 basis point in the transmission losses can lead to savings of roughly 100 crores till perpetuity in the power purchase cost of the DISCOMs, which will eventually transform to optimization of tariff for the consumers at large. So, in the end, for financial turnaround or for the financial viability of the DISCOM, the 3 major stakeholders, state government, SCRCs and DISCOMs, have to work more cohesively for this betterment of this sector. And we are highly thankful to ISGF and for the distribution utility to meet in order to partner us as a knowledge partner and present our views before the respected team. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Himanshu. It was indeed a very thought-provoking presentation, and you have flagged many issues which our panelists maybe will throw some light. My pleasure to invite Dr. Ashish Goel, Chairman UPPCL and General Secretary AIDA, to make his presentation. Ashish comes with a lot of long experience in power sector, running a DISCOM and now running the whole state power sector. Yeah, Ashish, floor is yours.
Thank you, sir. Many of the points that relate to the viability of DISCOMs have already been discussed in brief. These are the points that we have been discussing with various DISCOMs. There is a short presentation. I won't take more than 10 minutes. So our mission at All India DISCOM Association is to make DISCOMs which are viable, capable, and future ready, which lead to affordability, reliability, and sustainability. And as Secretary Power Sir said, in economics we have a thing called iron triangle. So if we have these 3 goals, it is very difficult to meet all 3. We meet any 2 goals. So we have to select. But that is a discussion for the future. So AIDA is a not-for-profit organization which was established in 2024 and all the DISCOMs, franchisee or companies engaged in power distribution can be members. Until now, we have 51 members, and our office is at Malcha Marg, Chanakyapuri, New Delhi, and we are also looking for a bigger accommodation for our offices. And Shri Lokesh Chandra, who is president of MSEDCL, is the current president. I am the general secretary, and Alok Kumar sir is the director general. We are focusing on policy and regulatory advocacy to represent DISCOM's viewpoint before different forums based on analysis, research, and inputs from all our members. We aim to collaborate among DISCOMs, sharing experiences, best practices, case studies, making working groups. There are several working groups which have been formed on policy, on tariffs, on equipment specification, etc. We are also focusing on capacity building of DISCOM's human resource. We are also working on common specification of technical standards and potentially moving for a unified rate contracts across the country, which will not only improve the procurement practices of the DISCOMs by establishing common national standards, but also helping the industry to develop one kind of product and also achieve economy of scale as well as ultimately economy in manufacturing. We are thinking of Center of Excellence for Resource and Knowledge Center as a single platform for all matters related to existing or emerging areas for building a sustainable and future-ready DISCOM. As far as losses are concerned, you can see this wavy graph of ACS ARR gap. And I must put a disclaimer that all the data related to power sector is highly susceptible to interpretation. So what kind of data, in which way you are presenting, is it on accrual basis, is it on cash basis, is it an audited balance sheet figure or a regulatory figure or a cash basis figure, everything is based on asterisks. See the terms and conditions. So ACS ARR gap is highly erratic. In election years, the gap increases. In other years, it decreases. Debt is increasing. More than 7 lakh crore is the indebtedness. And I have this feeling that all the states put together are spending not less than 6 to 7 lakh crore rupees, either in terms of subsidy or in terms of loss funding or in terms of other kind of losses on the distribution sector. And clearly this is not sustainable. Tariffs are not cost reflective, irrational disallowances, delayed tariff orders, underfunded O&M cost, non-revision of cost data book, fuel cost adjustment. These are the problems that you are all aware of. High financing cost, 3% higher than CPSUs. But here I had this thought, should financing cost go down for the unsustainable debt or DISCOMs, which will motivate them to borrow even more? Or should it be high enough so that they are forced to do reforms? So this is a moot subject. Poor recovery from rural and poor agriculture consumers. SERCs lack development orientation. They are indulging in consumerism and, only consumer orientation and populism. They should have had a balanced view. Interest burden due to long delays in disposal of cases. Complicated tariff structure. Open access being used for cream skimming, and ultimately the burden is coming on DISCOMs. RCO compliances is also a burden, but I'm thankful to Secretary Power and Ministry to come for their new notification on RCO, which has much reduced the burden on DISCOMs, and it is a forward-looking notification that has been issued, and cost of RE integration. So these are the key concerns of DISCOM. The one suggestion that I wanted to give here was that our Electricity Act is a very high litigation prone, sir. Sir, Ministry of Finance has issued a circular in, I think, March 23, where they had said that reconciliation, mediation should be preferred, and arbitration they have disallowed for more than 10 crores, and high-level committees have been formed in the hydropower sector by Ministry of Power. So similar amendments in, I think, 2-3 sections of Electricity Act and Section 158 will also be required, so that the path of conciliation, mediation should also be there in electricity sector, rather than go in for expensive litigation and arbitration, sir. So there are some interventions which are required for restoring viability. Tariff policy need to be enforced. AIDA has undertaken a study on analysis of tariff orders. New statutory framework is required for tariff rationalization. Maybe tariff should be linked to WPI, and a true-up can occur every 3 years or 5 years. There are steps required to reduce the financing cost. DISCOM dues from panchayats should be allowed to be deducted from Finance Commission grants. So that is one input that we can give to the latest Central Finance Commission, that they should allow that all the electricity payments to DISCOMs should be allowed to be deducted from Finance Commission grants. Incentivize efficiency improvement through early completion of RDSs. State government should be incentivized to take up permanent non-reversible reforms, and a national policy for improvement in recovery from rural areas, poor consumers, centralized payments for electricity dues by state government. Prepaid meter is a solution, for example. Normative O&M norms as recommended by CEA, but still SERCs are not, they are not ready to accept these norms. I had already touched on the capacity building aspects in my inaugural session. So demand forecasting is an area where we need to build our capacity, and with the advent of a smart meter, we will have much more real-time demand response. Capacity expansion planning with increasing uncertainties in generation from virtual RE and demand uncertainties. So we need capacity there. Distribution network planning and operations with growing penetration of rooftop solar and behind the meter storage, distributed RE. New technology in the area of smart grid, AI, data analytics, cybersecurity, managerial skills, when the engineers are promoted from one step to the other, so they need to enhance their skills. So AIDA is supporting in identification of training needs among the members. We need increased government funding for training courses for DISCOM personnel. So sir, I would request Ministry to have dedicated funds for capacity building, sir. That will go much farther way than giving grant for just some small infrastructure or something. AI/ML capacity are crucial, whether internally or externally. So these capacities need to be developed even in the private sector, even in the market also, so that we can hire such professionals, because these capacities are not available in the market also. So Center of Excellence for capacity building is required, and we are thinking about that. As we have said, that NPTI MOU we have already done, and discussion with IIM Lucknow is underway in a very advanced stage. They have given us a draft course content for the MBA course. Making DISCOMs future ready. So it is a priority action area due to energy transition, climate change. I don't want to get into data. So if we rank our DISCOMs in the world, so we fare nowhere. So we have a long distance to travel. India has been proactive in deploying SCADA, but actual implementation is very poor. So this point was also covered in the inaugural. I am not going to detail. Similarly, smart meter installation. We need to be realistic about the progress of the smart meter. In UP, we have now started earlier we started the phase 1, I would say, of familiarizing public with the smart meter and establishing their trust. So we were focusing on urban areas. Now we have identified clusters. I am calling them success story clusters, or given them targets that you make one success story at least in one division, and it includes rural area also. So we are introducing smart meter into rural areas also, so that their resistance also goes down with time to come, and they don't become an election issue or a political issue at the appropriate time. So we need to even without saturating the urban area, we need to start penetration of smart meter in the rural areas. Smart meters have a number of benefits, but we need to be ready to take advantage of them. We need to have a comprehensive study in Assam and Bihar, where a significant number of smart meters are there, and familiarize all other DISCOMs with their benefits. Prepaid metering, we have already discussed. I will skip that. So we cannot have sustainable development goals fulfilled unless we have affordable power, and it is a big challenge. High electricity tariff adversely affects our industry, our economic competitiveness. Average household, as a percentage of its income, spends much more on electricity than developed country. So that is a conundrum that which we have to solve. How we are going to solve it, we need to put all our heads together. So a large research and focus has to be done on how to optimize our capacity expansion in various areas, how to minimize our stranded cost, how to take advantage of smart data in our demand response, how to make markets more elastic, more flexible in procuring the capacity, in procuring the power. So these are all the areas we need to focus on, and how to improve our dispatch system, least cost scheduling using SCED. We need to have fair network use policies so that the cost is fairly applied to all the stakeholders. Open access regime, net metering, all these issues need to be, we need to have much more economically fair as well as non-discriminatory policy framework, because these will become major component of our cost going forward. Earlier they were only a bit, 2%, 5%, but as the renewables penetration grows, smart penetration grows, these kind of challenges are going to come before the DISCOMs, and ultimately DISCOM is the last resort where all the costs are going to accumulate, and ultimately the consumer or the government will have to bear those costs. We need to strengthen APTEL, and the new Electricity Amendment Act has rightly tackled this subject. Tariff regulation for central generators, we need much more market savvy regulation on central generators, because a lot of costs are automatically transferred to DISCOMs, and government subsidy should be provided for more green corridors rather than ISTS waiver, and we at DISCOMs are quite happy that ISTS waiver has not been extended. High trading margin of SECI and other REIAs, and loan interest which essentially benefit REC and PFC need to have a relook. Probably their model needs some intervention so that they can access low-cost loans from the market. So I will skip this in the interest of time. These topics have already been so this is in summary annual review of tariff orders and non-compliance of tariff policy and rules. This needs to be published. This should be published. Either ministry publishes it or AIDA can take up this task to publish this so that public knows what is being done. Because the Electricity Act has put a huge duty on regulators for the development and sustainability of the sector. And that is one area where there needs to be more sunlight. And review the tariff setting framework, timely revision linked with price rise, adequate normative allowances, etc. And I think Section 108 should be amended to enable government to give effective directions which do not impinge on the adjudicatory power of SERCs, but at least the government should have the power to give policy direction, at least on the tariff structure, so long as it does not violate the national tariff policy. And there should be policy for collection of dues from government, especially from the rural areas, mission approach to control cost of bulk electricity, benefits of smart metering, data analytics, gradual adoption of prepaid mode by consumers, support AIDA in research and capacity building, strengthen APTEL, reform linked credit enhancement support to DISCOMs, and amend rules on CGRF. CGRF is becoming another bureaucracy, so we need to be careful that how much of an audit regime on the we want to build in over and above the DISCOMs. And it was said from China, ancient civilization, that every 200 years there used to be a revolution and the empire used to collapse because the number of auditors used to exceed the number of implementers. So that will be that is a cautionary tale. So thank you very much.
No, thanks a lot, Ashish, for bringing here the crystallized collective viewpoint of DISCOMs. And the two presentations, I think they have set the agenda very well. Now we turn to experts to hear them what can be done, what is being done, what should be done. So my pleasure to invite the chairperson of this session, Shri Pankaj Agarwal ji, the Secretary to Government of India Ministry Power, to kindly come and share his thoughts and some guidance what should be done in what manner. Pankaj, please. There are many commonalities between Pankaj and me. I think he's also a civil engineer. He's also from IIT Roorkee, and goes on. Yeah, Pankaj, welcome.
Thank you, Ashish and Himanshu, for giving us a good start. I will start with a very lighter note. Ashish observed कि जो हमारे accounts हैं उनको बड़ा मतलब carefully देखने की ज़रूरत है. We got loaded with caveats. Always find, last time I told even my minister, that accounting is more of an art and less of a science. Had it been science, तो अभी तो computer सारा काम कर चुके होते, chartered accountants would have gone like out of job. So that continues. मैं कुछ बातें बहुत छोटी-छोटी आपके सामने रखना चाहूँगा. जो regulatory challenges हैं, panel में Ravi Kumar Saab hai, who is a sitting regulator, and we have two more regulators on the panel. So I would leave that aspect for them to really dwell upon. एक विषय मैं आप सबसे कहना चाहूँगा कि ये renewable energy as a matter of principle, जहाँ जितने भी participants हैं, उसको development वहाँ होना चाहिए जहाँ उसका point of consumption है. जितना हम दूरी बढ़ाते जाएंगे उतना हमारे लिए अनमैनेजेबल होती चली जाएगी. अभी कुछ दिन पहले ग्रीन अमोनिया के टेंडर्स हुए देश में. मतलब काफ़ी खुशी का एक वातावरण था, मतलब हमारे सेक्टर में आरी सेक्टर में कि साहब $600 पे हम अमोनिया मिल रही है. मतलब दिस इज़ लाइक यू हैव ब्रिज द बैरियर, मतलब समथिंग न्यू हैज़ बीन अटेन्ड. And I was told by somebody with a lot of pride कि साहब यूरोप में तो $1,000 का बैरियर अभी तक नहीं ब्रीच कर पाए, हम $600 पे आ गए. So it was a very high level meeting where we were discussing it. मैंने उसमें कहा भाई कि इसमें ट्रांसमिशन सब्सिडी को क्यों भूल रहे हैं. $250 per ton of ammonia is what you are providing as transmission subsidy, or you are not even aware of. So we need to be at the utility level very, very conscious of costs involved when different sets of policies are being made. चाहे वो ISTS waiver हो, चाहे लोड साइड में यदि हम ट्रांसमिशन सिस्टम एक्सटेंशन कर रहे हों या कोई भी पॉलिसी बनाएं, तो मेरा आइडा से और आप यूटिलिटी से अनुरोध रहेगा कि आप इस पूरी रेगुलेटरी प्रोसेस में एक्टिवली पार्टिसिपेट करें और हर जो भी इनिशिएटिव्स हैं, जो भी पॉलिसी प्रपोजल्स हैं, उनके कॉस्ट एस्पेक्ट को जरूर देखें कि कितनी कॉस्ट इन्वॉल्व है, किस पे कॉस्ट इंसिडेंस है, इसको जरूर देखें। दूसरा विषय, आज मैं इसका ये देख रहा था कि आपके पैनल में क्या क्या विषय रखे हैं, एक इनोवेटिव फाइनेंसिंग का विषय भी है। बट एक बात मैं आप सबके सामने रखना चाहूँगा कि देयर इज नो शॉर्टकट टू वायबिलिटी ऑफ डिस्कॉम्स। हम डिस्कॉम को वायबल बना फाइनेंशियली भी सिक्योर करना पड़ेगा थ्रू रेगुलेटरी सपोर्ट, गवर्नमेंट सपोर्ट, और साथ में हमें तभी सिस्टम में हम सस्टेनेबल मैनर में इन्वेस्ट कर सकेंगे, अदरवाइज इन्वेस्टमेंट नहीं आएगा हमारे सिस्टम में। टोटेक्स का मॉडल की बात कही गई है, उसके अंदर आपने स्मार्ट मीटरिंग में टोटेक्स अडॉप्ट किया है, but at the end of the day it has to come from the ARR. Bottom line is that, and there has to be cash on the table. हम कुछ भी कह लें कि इसको फर्स्ट चार्ज होगा, उसको सेकंड चार्ज होगा, अल्टीमेटली ऑल चार्जेस आर टू बी ऑनर्ड। कोई फर्स्ट है, कोई सेकंड है, कोई थर्ड है, कोई फोर्थ है, बट एवरी चार्ज इज टू बी ऑनर्ड। दैट इज द फंडामेंटल ऑफ बिजनेस। स्मार्ट मीटरिंग के बारे में मैं आप सबसे कहना चाहूँगा कि जो आशीष ने भी कहा कि हम कुछ सक्सेस स्टोरीज तैयार कर रहे हैं। ऑनरेबल होम मिनिस्टर ने भी काफ़ी समय पहले एक रीजनल काउंसिल में कहा था कि हमें इसकी स्टडी करानी चाहिए, इसके पॉजिटिव्स और इसके नेगेटिव्स उनको समझना चाहिए और उस पर हमें आगे अपनी स्ट्रेटजी को चेंज रिकैलिब्रेट करना चाहिए। आई होप द टीम डीलिंग विद स्मार्ट मीटरिंग इज़ ऑलरेडी ऑन इट and we'll soon have like different studies published like in this kind of forum. Contractual disputes का भी एक बड़ा विषय है, एक लिटिगेशन का विषय भी अभी उठाया गया कि साहब बहुत ज़्यादा लिटिगेशन है। एक हफ्ते पहले हम लोग एक बड़ी हाई लेवल मीटिंग में बैठे हुए थे, somebody asked me कि क्या आपके सेक्टर में ऐसा हो सकता है, तो I said my sector is highly regulated and highly contested. इस सेक्टर में हो सिर्फ ये रहा है अभी जो मेरे देखने में आया है कि हम लोग मामले मुकदमे चलते रहते हैं और हमारी कॉस्ट एक्यूमुलेट होती चली जा रही है और वकीलों की फीस बढ़ती जा रही है। मुझे इसको कोट मत करिएगा इस कमरे के बाहर, लेकिन अब 2 दिन पहले मुझे किसी ने कहा कि CRC में वकील आजकल 10 लाख रुपए पर हियरिंग लेने लग गए हैं। If that is what we have been doing, I think it's really time to reflect upon what we need to do collectively. हम सबको मिलकर सोचना पड़ेगा। मीडिएशन का काफ़ी अच्छा सुझाव है, आपके AMISP के कॉन्ट्रैक्ट में भी मीडिएशन का प्रावधान है, CCIE का प्रावधान है, और अभी एक दिन अनिल रावल जी मुझे मिले थे AMISP एसोसिएशन की ओर से। उन्होंने अनुरोध भी किया कि साहब एक CCIE डिजिग्नेट कर दीजिए जो हमारे स्मार्ट मीटरिंग के इश्यूज को डील करेगा। इफ दिस हाउस अग्रीज देन आई विल बी मोर देन हैप्पी टू डिजिग्नेट वन ऑफ द CCIEs टू डील विद सच केसेस। AIML के बारे में भी आज के इस पैनल में चर्चा होनी है। मैं आपसे अनुरोध करूंगा कि हमारे सेक्टर में जितना डेटा है उतना शायद दुनिया में किसी भी सेक्टर में डेटा जनरेट नहीं होता है। Tremendous amount of data is there. मतलब billions of data points are being generated. Now the challenge is कि ये डेटा हमारा कहीं भी structured form में किसी के उपयोग के लिए उपलब्ध ही नहीं है, कहीं नहीं उपलब्ध है। भारत सरकार ने एक AI कोष बनाया है, उस AI कोष पे अपेक्षा ये थी कि हम सब लोग अपना anonymized data in a स्टैंडर्ड स्ट्रक्चर हम उपलब्ध कराएं और वो इनोवेटर्स के लिए अवेलेबल कराएं। समस्या ये है कि बहुत मुश्किल से, आई थिंक ऐसे 1 साल पहले मैंने आशीष से रिक्वेस्ट की थी तो आशीष ने यूपी का कुछ डेटा कुछ इनोवेटर्स को दिलवाया था। AI कोष में टोटल तेलंगाना की एक डिस्कॉम का बहुत थोड़ा सा डेटा उपलब्ध है आज की तारीख में। इसके लिए भी आई विल रिक्वेस्ट AIDA और my DISCOM distribution division to prepare a policy कि हम किस तरीके से अपना डेटा anonymized फॉर्म में शेयर कर सकते हैं ताकि नए नए AI और मशीन लर्निंग के टूल्स आ सकें। है ही नहीं टूल्स आज की तारीख में। एक विषय फोरकास्टिंग का भी है इससे जुड़ा हुआ। फोरकास्टिंग दोनों तरफ से है, एक तो है कि डिमांड साइड फोरकास्टिंग है, सप्लाई साइड फोरकास्टिंग। आपकी समस्या बहुत ज़्यादा बढ़ने वाली है। जैसे जैसे रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी का पेनिट्रेशन बढ़ रहा है, आपकी प्रॉब्लम मल्टीपल टाइम्स बढ़ेगी, ये आप मान के चलिए। और ऐसा नहीं कि दुनिया ने उसका कोई हल समाधान खोज लिया है। आप यूरोप में भी जाके बात करिए, वो भी उतना ही परेशान है। जिनके 88% आरी पेनिट्रेशन हो गया, वो तो और भी ज़्यादा परेशान है। जितना हम वेदर, आरी जनरेशन और डिमांड, इनका ट्रायंगुलेशन करते चलेंगे और इस डेटा को जितना हम स्वेट करेंगे, शायद हमारे पास उतने अच्छे फोरकास्टिंग मॉडल्स उपलब्ध होते जाएंगे। आज की तारीख में हमारी जो डिमांड फोरकास्टिंग का काम है, वही बड़ा रूडिमेंट्री है। लास्ट ईयर सेम मंथ में क्या हुआ था, इस साल कल क्या हुआ था, या पिछले एक हफ्ते का वेदर क्या है, IMD की वेबसाइट देखी, ठीक है भाई, आगे इस तरीके से बढ़ना है। अब ज़माना नाउ कास्ट का आ गया, T+1 का ज़माना ख़त्म हो गया। अब तो H+1 का ज़माना रह गया है कि टाइम ऑफ डे +1 आवर का आपको हिसाब मालूम होना चाहिए, बोथ ऑन द डिमांड साइड एंड ऑल्सो द सप्लाई साइड। ये ह्यूमनली पॉसिबल नहीं होगा। आप IMD का डेटा, ECMRWF का डेटा, दुनिया भर का डेटा आपके यहाँ बीम करेगा और उसको आप कैसे कन्वर्ट करेंगे। नाउ कास्ट का डेटा हर घंटे आएगा, आपके 4 इंजीनियर्स की टीम लगा दीजिए, आप नहीं कर पाएगी। वी रियली नीड state of the art systems. We are trying to help develop one RE generation forecasting model with IIT Bombay. लेकिन I don't think that that will solve all problems what you are facing. उसमें और भी बहुत सारे structural challenges हैं जो हम लोग के ध्यान में हैं. We are trying to address those also. एक issue जो आप सबके ध्यान में लाना चाहूँगा वो है प्लानिंग, रिसोर्स एडिक्वेसी प्लानिंग। अभी तक क्या आप लोग ये मान के चलते थे कि CA में बैठ के कोई करेगा या आपके दफ्तर में बैठ के कोई एक व्यक्ति कर लेगा, अब वो ज़माना नहीं रहा। अपनी रिसोर्स एडिक्वेसी प्लानिंग आपको खुद करनी पड़ेगी। हर डिस्कॉम में 3 या 4 अच्छे इंजीनियर्स का, यंग इंजीनियर्स का ग्रुप बनाइए, एक अच्छे सीनियर उसके साथ लगाइए, उससे कहिए कि भाई अब आप रिसोर्स एडिक्वेसी प्लान बनाओ। हम लोगों के लिए रिसोर्स एडिक्वेसी प्लान और रेगुलेटरी अफेयर्स, नॉर्मली मैं 6 साल डिस्कॉम में रहा हूँ, हम लोग बड़ी साइड एक्टिविटी होती है। वी आर ऑलवेज प्री ऑक्यूपाइड विद ब्रेड एंड बटर इशूज़ कि फलाने विधायक जी का फ़ोन आया तो कैसे डील करना है, सांसद जी का फ़ोन आया तो कैसे डील करना है, सागर में लाइट चली गई तो क्या करना है, फलाने जगह ट्रांसफार्मर की कमी हो गई तो क्या करना है। वी आर ऑलवेज फायर फाइटिंग। वी आर rarely finding time to sit back, relax and think in the medium to long term कि हमें करना क्या है आगे जाके। वो चीज़ नहीं हो पाती डिस्कॉम में, उसको जरूर करने की कोशिश करिए। एक छोटी सी टीम बनाइए। इसी से जुड़ा हुआ विषय है ये ट्रांसमिशन प्लानिंग का। आज से करीब मैं 1-1.5 साल पहले, विवेक इज सिटिंग हियर, मैं जबलपुर गया था MPB के हेडक्वार्टर में, मतलब नाउ जो भी सक्सेसर कंपनीज उनके हेडक्वार्टर में। तो मैंने उसमें पूछा भाई कि तुम लोग इंट्रा स्टेट ट्रांसमिशन प्लानिंग में क्या कर रहे हो। तो पता चला कि साहब पिछले 1 साल से 12 132/33 सब स्टेशन के लिए आपस में जद्दोजहद चल रही है, सिर्फ बातचीत हो रही है। और उस मेरी विजिट के बाद शायद 2 सब स्टेशन इसके 132/33 के क्लियर हो गए। और CMD ट्रांसको ने उनसे कहा कि साहब हमारे प्रदेश में और कोई 132/33 या 220/33 की निकट भविष्य बनाने की आवश्यकता नहीं है। The question is you are not prepared with the argument कि आपको क्या चाहिए, कहाँ आपको प्रॉब्लम है। आपको अपनी लोड फ्लो स्टडीज़ खुद करनी पड़ेंगी, लोड फोरकास्टिंग खुद करनी पड़ेगी, जनरेशन फोरकास्टिंग खुद करनी पड़ेगी। आप ये क्यों मान के चलते हैं कि इंट्रा स्टेट ट्रांसमिशन सिस्टम या STU जो है या ट्रांसको है वो आपके लिए सब करके बैठेगी? बिल्कुल नहीं करेगी। इसी तरीके से जो इंटर स्टेट ट्रांसमिशन प्लानिंग है, पहले सर उसमें स्टेट्स का रिप्रेजेंटेशन प्रैक्टिकली नहीं था, फिर हमने इसको अब स्टेट्स को उसमें मेंबर बनाया है सबको NCT में। लेकिन मैं देख रहा हूँ कि आप लोगों का जो पार्टिसिपेशन है सदर्न स्टेट्स को छोड़ के बाकी सब बहुत रूडिमेंट्री है। यू नीड टू एक्टिवली पार्टिसिपेट, वेदर यू आर इन द वेस्टर्न रीजन और द ईस्टर्न रीजन और नॉर्दर्न रीजन, इट डजंट मैटर। You need to participate and participate actively, and you can participate only if when you are serious, sincere, committed and you have a dedicated team. 2 या 3 लोगों की टीम चाहिए, इससे बड़ी टीम नहीं चाहिए जो कि ये सारी विषयों को समझ सके, अध्ययन करती रहे। सर, मेरे ख्याल में इतना मेरी ओर से कहना पर्याप्त होगा और आई विल बी ईगर टू अंडरस्टैंड द डेलिब्रेशंस एंड आई अश्योर यू कि जो आपकी रिकमेंडेशंस होंगी दीज विल श्योरली फाइंड प्लेस इन द नेशनल इलेक्ट्रिसिटी पॉलिसी। थैंक यू सो मच।
Thank you so much, Pankaj, for sparing time to be with us and for sharing your thoughts. And they were really very helpful. And let me tell you, we can't discuss everything what you have told. Maybe we'll sit down after this, we'll come out with some action plan, will come to you. And one thing which comes to mind, currently the way we are preparing our comments on your draft rules and draft policies, regulations, is mostly we discuss the DISCOMs and all. What I realize now, you need to have a team which can analyze, like you said, the cost, impact of cost within the 10-15 days period. Because normally comments are asked in 1 month. And if you take up a study like PFI, it takes 9 months or 10 months. So that window is lost. You need to create some instrument which can analyze very quickly the available data and come to the policy regulator within that 1 month. So I think we will act on it. There are several very good points you have made. Thanks a lot again for sparing your time. Now it's time to turn to the very eminent panelist. I know that time is running out, but it's so exciting that we have got such a rich, diverse set of panelists. We are honored to have one eminent regulator with us because it's a distribution utility meet. We have been talking since morning what regulators are doing and not doing. So it's a tough call, but Mr. Ravi Kumar has been on both sides. He was ACS Energy and then Chief Secretary, and now he is heading the regulator. So he knows both the sides and how he is balancing. So I'll request him to maybe throw some light on how to achieve this challenge of this cost-reflective tariff, the consumer interest and the actual cost, because PFI made a presentation. They made out the regulatory assets are only about 1/5 of the gap, the debt, which has come. Some debt is, of course, for capex, if you remove that. So there are many things like which are disallowed, maybe for power purchase cost, O&M cost, carrying cost and all. What is the practical way, in your view, and how you are meeting them? So floor is yours, sir. Mr. Ravi Kumar, yeah. Whatever it's convenient to you, please.
Friends, Ashish made a comment. SERCs lack development perspective and indulging in populism. That was a deadly comment. Populism should be left to governments, not to SERCs. SERCs should be bound by the Act. But how many governments would like to give SERCs the freedom? Are they not SERC, ERC, even central also? How many would like to give the freedom? Very few. Many governments feel that the ERCs are extended arm of government. They will not like to give them financial freedom. They will ask SERCs to put all the money back in government and release it to budget. When it is budgetary control, then SERCs is finished. Now you cannot blame SERC for all the, regulators cannot be blamed for all the DISCOMs problems. See, I have been in the sector, Parveer knows we were together from prior to the reform started in late 90s. Before reforms, after all reforms, I have been there for now about 26 years, even when there was a board. The distribution DISCOM has been in the bottom of the pyramid. We started with what is called the low-hanging fruits, first generation, then transmission. Now we are looking at distribution. By the time distribution companies have all become junk. My view has always been, my personal view, has been that private sector distribution companies may not be able to public sector distribution companies will not be able to deliver what we want to deliver. Given the staff structure, the inherent problems in distribution companies, it will be very difficult to deliver. How we do it, how do we privatize? We have now gone through about, I think, 7 iterations of the amendments to the Electricity Act, and we are still going through. I don't know whether this will see the light of the day, but at least this has a beginning. Because what I have seen is whatever be the reforms, processes, the regulations made, at the field level it breaks down. He was talking about giving a new connection within 24 hours. New connections take 24 days. The distribution company, the employees do not work at a commercials, look at the commercials. They are not working like a commercial entity. They still think they are the board. Even after 25 years, that has not changed. So we may, at the higher level, we may have MBS, we may have conferences, we may have capacity building, but at the lower level, things have not changed. You take it from me, I have spent 26 years, I have been in the board, I have been in the corporation. Unless we can change, I don't know how we can change the mindset. These top level reforms are going to make very little dent at the bottom, particularly at the consumer level. These things can go on. But what can the regulators do to do this cost-reflective tariff? Now, what is this meant by cost-reflective tariff? We have discussed ad nauseum whether there should be average cost of supply, or the cost to service, or the voltage level tariffs. It differs. At least the first stage is we should be able to collect from each consumer category the average cost of supply. We can come to cost of service later. In this, one thing is, if the government wants to subsidize, indulging in populism, he said, we should not. If government wants to subsidize a particular category, it is for the government to do it. There should not be cross-subsidy by one other set of consumers. If industry is cross-subsidizing, say, agriculture, or lifeline domestic, it means industry is cross-subsidizing government. If government is going to give subsidy, let it give full subsidy. So these cross-subsidy levels, which our Act also now gradually reduce, plus or minus 20%. Plus or minus 20% band is still high. I think it should be still reduced. Because government should not be subsidized by another set of consumers. That is something which we should do. I will tell you what we did also in Karnataka. Then remove the slabs. We should have one slab. With the more the slabs, it is prone to misuse. It will be left to the staff to do whatever they want, left to the consumers, given all consumers would like to misuse. So the slab should be removed. Unless slabs are removed, you cannot do this prepayment. You have to have prepayments, there should be no slabs. There will be a single slab. Now this is as far as tariff is concerned. But as far as the tariff structure is concerned, see, the problems which occur is the tariff is fixed ex ante. When you fix it ex ante, given, as Pankaj was saying, data, we are so short of data. We have no idea of the consumption pattern, what is the demand pattern, how many consumers, what is there, who will move out if there is an increase in tariff, what will happen. This is something which regulators are completely in the dark. So some assumptions are made, and we look at true up. Most of the cases, it does not hold. Ex post, when we are doing it, we see the consumption, the power purchase cost has increased. The O&M costs have increased. The administration costs have increased. But then the regulator, being a regulator who plays to the gallery, does not allow all that. Otherwise, the tariff shock will be there. Now, how to manage this is something we'll have to build in, because tariffs going up, there is a certain level to which the tariffs can increase, which the people will pay. After that, we don't know what will happen. And given that we have the open access, which we are now aggressively promoting, all the people who pay bills will go out. Very easy. And then rules which have been made by Government of India, I don't know how much they have taken into consideration the DISCOMs. Open access, if only after 4 years, no open access charges should be framed. And open access says only standard costs. Now standard cost, as we all know, the fixed cost recovery is less than 30%. If 70% is borne through the variable charge, if consumers move away from open access, 70% is lost. That we have not been able to, no court is able to, because the tariff policy says only standard cost. We have not been able to recover that. So these complicated tariff structures without slabs, the policies being made without looking at the distribution viability, DISCOM viability, will continue to impinge the distribution sectors. So unless governments pay their subsidy in full, the tariffs or the bills by the government sector is paid. The court cases, I am also party to it, but we have in most of the states, the CRCs have very few cases pending. And if it goes to APTEL, then it is nobody's business. Nobody knows. It is not taking very long time. I think Government of India's amendment, if you increase the number of members, maybe you can dispose it of fast. I just tell what we have done, try to do in Karnataka. Government, thanks to government's populism, they have said 200 units electricity free. So we took it as a blessing and removed slabs. Everybody pays the same rate, so it is not only for domestic, for all categories we have removed slabs. For domestic now, 5 rupees 80 paisa per unit, whether he consumes 1 unit or 1,000 units, we have removed slabs. This, I think many states are giving free power. I think one should take that advantage and remove the subsidy. And then we have said agricultural subsidy. There will be no agriculture. Agriculture will not be cross-subsidized by any other sector. Government has to pay full subsidy if it wants to subsidy. I mean, by mistake we did or somehow we didn't realize. The tariff for, say, commercial is lower than domestic. The tariff for industry is 6 rupees per unit. For domestic is 5 rupees 80 paisa. It's except 3-4 sectors. In the year, multi-year sector, we have made the multi-year tariff. At the end of 27-28, only street lights, drinking water supply would be cross-subsidized. No other sector will have cross-subsidy. The cross-subsidy, maximum cross-subsidy is about 1-2%. This is about cross-subsidization. Subsidy will be 2%. So we said no cross-subsidies. We have to see how it will pan out. So now industries, as a matter of fact, one generator has gone to APTEL, saying that the industrial tariff should not be reduced. There is a case pending saying that industrial tariff should be increased. They have gone against the tariff order for reducing. The generator has said, no, thank you. It has to be increased. The case has been admitted in APTEL. I do not know how to handle it. So if the regulators can reduce this cross-subsidization by 20% also is, I would not say so, it should not remain. If there is any sector which requires cross-subsidy, it has to be paid by government. No other, it cannot be socialized to other sectors. How to handle employees? Pravir will be a better person to tell us. Because given the structure of the public sector, with the officers may change, officers may come, Ashish also work, but the lower level staff, men may come and men may go, but they continue forever. Like the stream flowing, they will continue. It's a challenge because they are not bothered, they get their salaries. As long as they are getting salaries, they are really not bothered about what is happening with the sector, how it is happening, whether consumer is getting his supply or not. There are no penalties. So that's a great challenge which regulators cannot do much. Governments, I don't think governments would like to do because they are a very strong body. I will leave with these thoughts. There are no solutions, but I leave it with these thoughts. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, sir. And you have given some solutions, like remove slabs and you said remove cross subsidy. I think it's a very good, maybe it's a time to maybe revisit the tariff policy which was done maybe 2006 and we did some amendments. A lot of things have changed. So thanks a lot for this. I now invite our friend Shrikant. He brings both. He is a senior civil servant, but he has a PhD in economics. So he's a wonderful person and very, very, say, mild personality, but very strong thoughts. So Shrikant, the floor is yours. I request you to address two things if you can. First is this cost of RE integration. Can we do something because this is coming a central thing? And second, what is the role of TBCB can play at a state level because transmission costs are an important cost for. So floor is yours, Shrikant. Yeah. So if you want, you can speak from here. You can take my.
Hello. Thank you, sir. So the cost of RE, as all of us are aware, it's not the pure price that we see at the plant gate. We have seen that the RE costs have fallen to 2 rupees, particularly solar cost to 2.50 rupees per unit, which is less than the coal price. And this is at the plant gate. But if we look at the variability costs, there are additional costs to this, and they're quite significant. This is because we all know that RE is not available when the demand peaks. And managing this demand is the toughest part of running the power system. All the SLDCs are aware of this. They spend a lot of time and effort in managing these peaks. So there are two ways when we absorb RE, where this balancing is done by flexing the thermal plants or by bringing in the hydro power, or if you have more of this RE, then there is additional cost of flexing the transmission grid as well, where a lot of these devices are added to keep the current flowing, the voltage and the current stable. So the variable cost is addressing the variability comes with a lot of cost. But the good news is that this cost can be minimized by smart planning. And the traditional way of managing the peaks has been to set up additional thermal plants. Whenever the distribution, the SLDC looks at a peak, in the next few years, they will immediately requisition for 1,000 megawatt or a 600 megawatt thermal plant. Alternatively, if the plant is not coming up, they would go to the market and purchase from the power markets, power exchanges at a very high price. Fortunately, the RE has opened up a new opportunity for approaching this problem in a much cheaper manner. And there is a few tools available where the RE has to be looked at or has to be operated with. One is the storage, then localization, flexing, and forecasting. From the supply side, these four tools are extremely useful in reducing the cost of the overall cost of RE. And from the demand side, we have the demand response. So if we look at the falling prices of the battery storage for short-term needs and also the PSP over the long run, the storage is a very cost-effective tool that we can deploy. And the recent SECI tender of 2 rupee 86 paise on 16th October last month, that has shown a new path in reducing the stored electricity costs. And another area where the state governments have been exploiting the low-hanging fruit is the solarization of agricultural feeders. And this is reducing their subsidies to a large extent without adding great fancy things like storage or the fax devices and such other things. Then yet another thing is the scaling up of the distributed or the localized solar resources by way of rooftop or kusum. So the brief answer is we can reduce the cost of the renewable electricity to on par with the conventional electricity. But this requires a lot of strategic planning and a lot of innovative thinking. Now, the related problem in terms of, as I said, the flexing of the grid is, or the localization, we intend to localize because if we have to set up all the solar electricity or solar capacities or wind capacities in distant areas and we have to bring them to the load centers which are above, let's say, 1,000, 1,500 kilometers, we are required to add lots of ISTS lines and transformation capacities, and this would increase the consumer bills significantly in the future. So the solution is to add these solar capacities in various states. Recently, the MNRE has come up with a revised assessment of the solar potential in the country. There is 3,363 gigawatt of solar potential. Barring Lakshadweep, every state has adequate solar potential to take care of their needs for the next at least 20-25 years. But if this capacity has to be set up within the state, they require intrastate grids, and these grids will have to be expanded because even within the state, these resources are located away from the demand centers. So the expansion of intrastate grid is extremely important, and that requires funds. And we all know that most of the states have a cash crunch, and this is where the TBCB comes in. And this has worked wonderfully with the interstate transmission system expansion. Over the last 5 years, if you see, a number of private transmission service providers have entered the field, and almost 50% of the network expansion is currently being undertaken by these private transmission service providers, remaining 50% with the CPS, with Power Grid. Similarly, this thing can very well work within the states also, and the network expansion can happen at much faster pace in the next few years, keeping pace with the ambitions of 500 gigawatts by 2030, and also by 2047 we need to add about 1,800 gigawatts. So if this is the pace at which we are required to add the renewables, the interstate grids also have to keep pace. Their expansion has to keep pace with this. And for this, most of the states have come up with the thresholds. The only thing left out is the states and the transcos to take a decision and call for bids beyond these thresholds. Government of India also has come up with the payment security cover for these intrastate lines. The late payment surcharge rules have been amended, and the payment security cover has been extended to the intrastate transmission lines as well. So that's the response.
Yeah, Shrikant, thank you very much for bringing out in so lucid, simple manner. What key message he has brought out is that to minimize the impact of higher renewable energy on cost of services, plan it well, and maybe depend on more on distributed energy and demand response, so that you avoid the cost of transmission. Whatever you have to do it through TBCB. If you take this approach, maybe India will succeed in containing the rise in the cost of service because of higher renewable energy penetration. Thanks a lot. I now turn to Shri D. Radhakrishna. And he's a person who's put in 42 years in power sector, from MPSCB, then Adani, and then Regulatory Commission. I request you to share with us some perspective on I believe on what are the difficulties in northeastern sector of India, but you have done a wonderful job there. And you also visited recently Kerala. So within government sector, how Kerala is able to succeed losses, some learnings. So floor is yours now. Thanks.
Thank you, Alok ji and my friends. It was a great pleasure to be over here, and I wanted what the regulator can do it in the electricity, that is humanizing. I wanted two words, humanizing effect, and the other thing is happy tariff. During my stay of 5 years, I have seen that no tariff should increase more than 7%, in which I started giving 5% rebate if you make the payment 4 days time. Now I am told that DISCOM people are fed up with the dates, ki when my date will be coming, when my payment, when I can make the payment. That has raised the collection efficiency by 70-80%. The second thing which I did during COVID time, ki come what may, you have no business, you have no commercials, no nothing, so don't make, even if you are not making the payments will not be cut, and the remaining, thereafter many states have followed the thing. Coming back to what we can do in the power sector, I tell you, I was very recently in Kerala. Last Tuesday, I was called by Kerala government for Kerala Vision 2031 to make their 75th year in 2031. I was surprised the way that state is performing. You know their commercial losses, T&D losses 6.6%. The second thing which my friend Raviji was telling about the employees not working, their Kerala retirement age is 56. Third, they work all 6 days. Fourth, their upgradations, their collection efficiency is 100%, 99.5, 99.7. And I was asking, why did you do that? Well, employees' motivation is that if they are not collecting the payment, they'll be called off why the payments are not coming. So what I wanted to say, we can do all these things everywhere also. Right now, their limitation was 15%. If the 15% tariff, we'll give the incentive. I said nothing doing. The distribution losses has to be copper losses and iron losses. I square R, I square C. The losses cannot be more than 6-7% if the cables are there. Some of these states like Visakhapatnam, when I went there, they said that our losses are 3%. When I wanted to know the Varanasi losses, they have also reduced substantially. And my Pankaj ji knows it, in Madhya Pradesh also, the losses have come down from 40% to 14-13%. And Shrikant ji knows that in Andhra also and Telangana also, the losses have come down from 40 to 16-14%. They are trying to target that also. That's the second thing. The third thing is the regulatory overburdens. Someone was saying appellant 7, there is already movement of 6 or 7 appellant members coming up the regulatory. But I must say, the single commodity. The single commodity is now being regulated by 30 states, and you have two boards of appellate tribunal. Now you wanted 7, and then the decision goes to Supreme Court. If you want to know, very recently 2004 case has been resolved by Supreme Court in 2024. 20 years they have taken to resolve. So we need to have a more reconciliatory approach than going to courts and all those things. And I think regulatory framework, arbitration and reconciliation, things are coming up in this thing. And with this, the one more thing is the safety aspect, which we are forgetting it. Cyber security, we are talking a lot nowadays, but electrical safety is one more thing. Very recently, one of my friend, along with his family, who was working with Tata Telecom, he died in Delhi with the electrical, entire family. Now, you know, last year the ACs have been sold in this country 1.5 crore. If you take 40-50 crore in the houses, 40 crore houses in the country, so every 30th person has bought one AC, and it has not it has additional ACs. Remaining 10, 12, 15 years ACs which are already there, because we need to have all this aspect also be taken care of as a distribution thing. When I was in Tripura, I made it very clear that if somebody consumption goes of 300 or 400 unit, that means he is using AC, then he should have a 3-phase unit also, and that means the DISCOM also, the health, technical and financial health of the DISCOM will also be improved that, and I think they have started a massive movement for seeing how many people have got, what kind of a loads they have got. Those things we need to work out at the ground level. With this, I am thankful to Alok ji.
Thank you very much
for this thing. Thank you. Okay.
Thanks a lot. You made very two pertinent point about rebate for consumers did work, and reconciliation, I feel we'll have to do some national policy. Staff is very afraid of accepting reconciliation, subject to vigilance inquiry and audit inquiry. If you make some national policy, it will not be questioned. It will have more acceptance for government staff or DISCOM staff. I now request Gajan Tiwari ji, who also brings a lot of rich regulatory experience, to talk something about regulatory assets, how bad they are, how good they are, and how to handle them. Yeah, Tiwari ji, floor is yours.
Regulatory asset, from its own terminology, it appears that it's really asset. But in fact, while determining the tariff by any state regulatory commission, when a distribution licensee comes with a petition, tariff petition, after exercising prudence check on its expenditure and making a revenue model to bridge that gap, the tariffs, after considering the cross-subsidy levels, they are made by the commissions. But while doing that, you see, assets are formed definitely considering that to what level of tariff we have to go. What percentage, whether 3%, 1.5%, 6%, 8%, whatever it is. But ultimately, it is that ceiling which decides that you have to go with a regulatory asset. Why? Because if you have to go up to 3% tariff hike or so you have to cut down that gap, which you have to bridge by way of increased tariff hike to make it as a regulatory asset. In fact, pre-regulatory era, there was no concept of assets. The tariffs were announced by the boards, and it was like anything. I don't think the assets might have been come in the books of accounts of the DISCOMs. Now, after regulatory era, having performance-based tariff and benchmarking by way of regulations, terms and conditions of tariff regulations, when these things are put while determining tariff, so I think it was the year 2004-05 when first time the regulatory assets had been created in case of Delhi. And that those assets were in the tune of 696 crores, which have heightened to 27,000 crores in 2024. So now the question is how these assets had been allowed to come up, that too in a year-to-year basis. In fact, it is the first year, whenever there is a gap, assets should be, commissions should refrain from making any asset. Because once it is created, it is difficult to cut down, and basically the assets which are regulatory assets for the first time, it is an asset to consumers which becomes a liability if it is not liquidated within time, liability to the consumers which were consumers at the time of creating these assets, and even for those which were not the consumers of the at the time of creating the assets. So it is also not good for making assets which should be passed on to the consumers, which basically was not the part of making such regulatory assets. So basically, it's a unrecovered revenue gap while determining the tariff. Now, I will go through the reasons, basic reasons, then the small legal framework and the Honorable Supreme Court's order for liquidation of tariff. for liquidation of assets. Basically, the basic reasons when a distribution licensee it files a petition, if it is not having properly estimated power purchase cost, it is having inflated sales, unestimated proper sales, consequently the revenue out of sales is not properly assessed, then it is not even filing the timely true-ups, and the subsidies are not received by DISCOMs timely. These four basic reasons are basically accountable for creation of regulatory assets. These things, if properly with due diligence, have been addressed at the time of examination of the tariff petitions, it can really reduce the creation of regulatory assets. Now, if we see the framework of regulatory assets, tariff policy 2006 and subsequently with 2016 very carefully and explicitly said that regulatory assets should be allowed only under the conditions of natural calamity or force majeures. And it should not be done, and if it is done, then it should be liquidated within a timely manner. It also says that the assets should not be if there is a condition of creation of a regulatory asset by the Commission, it should not be more than 3%. And if it is created, then it should be liquidated within a period of 3 years and at the most 7 years. Initially, 2006 tariff policy says it should be liquidated within 3 years, and thereafter it says this Electricity Amendment Rules 2024, notified on 10th January 2024, the second legal framework which also says the same, but it says that regulatory assets should be liquidated within 3 years, and the assets which were created as before the date of such notification, that is January 2024, they should be liquidated within 4 years from the date of notification. So therefore, there is a time limit for liquidation of such assets. Basically, the 4 conditions which were formulated under Electricity Amendment Rules 2024. Number 1 was that regulated assets should not be more than 3% of the ARR. Second was revenue gap shall be liquidated within 3 years. And thirdly, existing regulatory assets shall be liquidated within 7 years. Existing means the assets which were created prior to notification of Amendment Act. Now, as everybody knows, Honorable Supreme Court has taken this aspect of regulated assets by way of a petition filed by the distribution licenses of Delhi, and it has taken severe observations. It has said that creation of regulatory asset is a measure that the Commission adopts for good governance of the tariff. It is also a recognition of revenue recoverable by distribution companies, and as such, it is an enforceable right, though only through tariff determination for later years. It has specifically mentioned that these measures give rise to correlative obligations of the regulatory commissions to manage it efficiently and to allow easy liquidation. However, disproportionate increase and long pending regulatory assets depict a regulatory failure, so it has serious consequences on all stakeholders and the ultimate burden on the consumers of the state. So these are the observations of the Honorable Supreme Court with a number of observations, and after going through the status of regulatory assets in various states and after hearing their learned counsels also, Honorable Supreme Court has given several directives which includes the same, which are the part of the Electricity Rule 2024, Amendment Rules 2024, Rule 23 of Amendment Rules 2024, which I have already mentioned. It has also basically said that SERC must lay down a clear roadmap with trajectory of liquidation of regulatory assets, and also conduct intensive audits of DISCOMs performing regarding unrecovered revenue assets. So these exercises are now being taken up through OP1, which has been registered by the Honorable Tribunal, wherein the state-wise monitoring on these aspects are being done by the Honorable Appel, and they are passing regular orders on this. And as per the last order which I have gone through, most of the states which were having regulatory assets, including Chhattisgarh, they have started doing this also, making commissions have started auditing, awarding contracts for such audits, and they have started. And the resulting that these assets have now started liquidated, including, as my friend said, in Tamil Nadu, the state government has come up with a letter for giving this support for liquidating of such assets. Now, so these are the things. Now at the end, I would like to say that the convergence of statutory provisions, regulatory jurisprudence, and judicial oversight now provides a clear and enforceable architecture for managing regulatory assets. Effective compliance with these mandates will not only restore the financial health of DISCOMs, but also strengthen consumer confidence in the independence and competence of regulatory commissions. Further, the emphasis must be on predictive regulation, anticipating financial stress before it accumulates, and on embedding performance-based accountability within the sector governance framework. This transition from reactive cost recovery to proactive fiscal discipline will be instrumental in achieving the dual objectives of sustainable electricity pricing and long-term sector resilience. So these were what I could share about the regulatory assets. Thank you.
Thank you, Tiwari ji. Thank you very much. So, regulatory assets are like a drug. Don't take it. Better. Otherwise. So I now call Shri Nilesh Kaneji, who is a real professional from transmission distribution for 30 years. So, time is limited, but we are eager to hear you. How are you optimizing these costs for your DISCOM? Maybe what technology you are employing in planning and all. Please, floor is yours, Nilesh.
Regarding the optimization of the cost of the distribution company, there are three areas. More than 70% cost is generally covered under power purchase cost. And to optimize power purchase cost, we should have the proper planning, best use of short-term, mid-term, and long-term PPAs, as well as the AIML-based logics for the forecasting. Earlier speaker have also spoken about the forecasting. So better the forecasting distribution utilities in a position to optimize the power purchase cost. So AML-based logics even have own forecasting models, own forecasting sensors-based model. This is something we'll definitely use. Mean absolute error in the forecasting generally been seen across the India is 4-5%. If we could reduce that below 1%, we'll be in a position to optimize the power purchase cost. Second, more important cost of the distribution utility is repair maintenance and the customer services, which includes the O&M cost. If you really want to reduce the O&M cost, the cost on manpower, that is means you should manage your distribution utility in minimum manpower. And obviously when you want to manage the utility in minimum manpower, you should have an automation. For example, metering, billing, collection is an integral and important part, which also focuses the best of the customer services as well as the error-free services. And therefore, in metering, billing, collection, if you have robotic process automation of right from meter reading to bill generation, this will really help to reduce the errors. And obviously, then the digitization will follow, and you will be catch up in saving the cost on the commercial services. Operations and maintenance cost, obviously you should adopt the best of the technologies, right from the automation up to the LT level, from HT level, best of the SCADA, monitoring all your units, have the predictive maintenance, use the best of the sensors, and also do the appropriate and the proactive network planning. The network planning should be done in such a way that there should not be an excessive capex. As well, all the assets should be appropriately loaded and giving the best of the redundancy to the customer services. I would say the technology, the collaboration will also help, because earlier I mentioned power purchase cost. If you have better collaboration across the states, again you will be end up in saving a lot of money on your power purchase cost. So I would say, the technology, innovation, and the scalability will definitely help on O&M cost, and, better managing your power purchase portfolio will save on your power purchase cost. Use of the technology like robot and drones will definitely add value to optimize the power purchase cost. These are the few things we have already done. And lastly, I would say, whenever you are doing all these things, you generally ally with your regulator and complement, get the best of the policies. As earlier, one of the, the speaker has mentioned, the demand, the flexibility program. So the MERC has given us, the regulation and allow, the behavioral-based demand response program, in which a lot of customers have participated and saved a lot of money on that. Secondly, I would say, the time of use, a lot of solar is there during the daytime. So the time of use program which has been given by the commission here in Maharashtra, which also includes, the residential customers to make more consumption during the daytime or during the solar hours. And that has also really made our, the load curve flat and save a lot of money on the power purchase cost. Thank you.
Nilesh, thanks a lot for a very brief but very solid point. Now I request Abhishek Ranjan. Abhishek, to be in a nutshell, you have been in all NHPC and you have been, say, in IIT Delhi and all consultancy, I think. So can you tell us something about, say, like Delhi has done 250 megawatt of rooftop?
300 plus.
300
plus now.
megawatt, and you are going forward. But there is a point that urban DISCOMs have some difficulty in distributed energy. So please share your experience going forward, how are you managing and what is the impact on your revenue DISCOMs, Abhishek?
Yeah, thank you, sir. And hope I'm audible.
Yeah, you are audible. Please
Fine.
go ahead.
See, rooftop solar, or for that matter, any generation which is embedded within the demand, that is distribution, is having loads of benefits for a distribution utility. Can't hear? So I'll come there.
No, I think it was, you can take mic.
Hope I'm audible now. Any embedded generation which is within the distribution utility is having inherent benefits for the utility. Why? Because the complete T&D infrastructure is bypassed. So one obvious example and benefit is that the technical losses in the T&D portion, including ISTS, STU, and even the distribution, right from 66, 33, 11, and 400 volts, it is eliminated. So with this hunch in the mind, we started doing a value of grid-connected rooftop solar framework study in 2019. And to find out what are the segments in which the rooftop solar or embedded generation, if it is introduced, so it is going to result in end benefit for the DISCOM. So we selected distribution transformers, primarily residential, and then commercial residential, industrial, and then naturally, I mean, as we all know, that the residential customers cross-subsidized by C&I customers. So the losses on C&I customers getting solarized are more in terms of revenue compared to the residential. But net what we found is that if we solarized and focused more on residential sector, that is going to result in net gain for the distribution utility. And hence, we have already focused on solarizing more and more residential segment of the rooftop solar. But urban DISCOMs, as you said, sir, correctly, the challenges of roofs, and therefore two models which were virtual net metering and group net metering was also introduced in Delhi by Honorable Regulator in Delhi. So as we speak, we are going full-forged ahead. But second thing what we also did was hosting capacity of the distribution grid of renewable electricity, which is distributed solar, was also conducted in 2017-2018. Now, these framework study actually help us analyze, where in which portion of the DT, which section we can solarize without causing some grid integration problems, like for example, over voltage problem or volt wire or volt watt problems. In fact, very interesting point which came out of the study was, if you have solar plus distributed storage at the site itself, connected with the grid connected, that means it's not going to pose any threat. And in fact, it is going beyond. I mean, The study showed in Delhi that up to 75% of the rated capacity of the DT equivalent solar can be put without, upgrading the infrastructure. But and that was why. Why? Because in the solar peak time generation, that is 12:1, the generation exceeds the demand and hence exported to the grid, leading to local instability and voltage issue. If batteries are introduced, not only that surplus power is absorbed, the voltage stability and over voltage things are controlled and gone. In the evening, that same battery can be utilized to augment or defect the peak load, wherein the utility is scheduling costly power or even in the non-solar hours in the evening or even purchasing high costly power from the grid. So this was a result of the study that solar plus BESS is the way to go. Fast forward 4-5 years, and then we have a very prestigious national level solar yojana that we have, which is very ambitious and which is very good and apt in the time. Some of the things which can be augmented to increase uptake of the solar, especially in the urban DISCOM as well as other area as well, is the framework study of hosting capacity may be done by the distribution utilities. That will help them assess which feeders actually they can, and that will give them ease of doing business in terms of easing out solar connections. Second is, since the slab rates are different for distribution utilities, if using VGRS framework or some modified way of it, it can be assessed, then the utilities will be totally in know of whether solar makes sense without making a generic guess. It's going to eat up their revenue. Because anything which is distributed, in fact, there could be models. The MNRE has come out with the EULA model, where utility-led aggregated solar model, where if some modifications are done, combining MNRE subsidy and the state subsidy, for example, in Delhi also, the state government is giving CAPEX subsidy as well as combining with the generation-based incentive. So combining these together, this can be utilized very well to, reduce not only the cross-subsidy burden, but also the subsidy burden of the Delhi state government. So this is a way, and then if we club, there are studies, we are trying to do some studies where solar plus distributed BESS, if combined with, whether it makes economic sense for the distribution utilities in the ARR, and for a greater good, if it can help not only in terms of the losses and avoiding costly power purchase and thereby reducing the overall purchase, whether it can make sense, solar plus BESS together. Now, one thing is in the resource adequacy study, slowly we are moving in that direction. For example, DRE, RCO is already there. But in the resource adequacy, whether integrated resource planning can be introduced, where not only the supply side, but also the network side, distributed network, STU, intrastate network, and also that the MOP has already clarified that the battery storage is also a network asset, for example. There are multiple clarifications. So whether the small scale storage, including solar plus distributed BESS, can also be treated as a resource, network resource, and can be included in the resource adequacy planning under the DISCOM ARR, etc. So this will help tame the demand at the lowest level, and therefore when you are relieving the load at the bottom of the voltage pyramid, then the entire upstream planning, like in the morning I was hearing that the transmission charges are at 22% and growing at the CAGR of 10+% per annum. That can also be planned, because if you are taming the load at the bottom itself at certain cost, that means the STU and ISTS planning can also be accordingly done in an integrated way. So these are the points I think which makes a very important role. And of course, when you install solar, there has to be a mechanism to predict it, because we have to now predict the net demand, which is total demand minus renewable generation embedded within. So AI and ML present a very good case in such cases. We'll discuss in some other session. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Abhishek. I think you made very valid point. If I can summarize in just 2 sentences, maybe subsidy structure of the government could be made little different, that where you have more hosting capacity, you give higher subsidy for the localized storage. so that the DISCOM, impact on DISCOM risk. So our subsidy structure should not be flat for all the households. Maybe we need to differentiate and may promote more storage. That is a one broad point which came in. So we have completed the discussion. It has been, I think, almost 2 hours. And organizers are pushing us to close. Maybe we can take 1 or 2 questions if there is any from the audience before we close the session. Any? Audience is hungry. So we'll take question over the lunch. So, so thanks a lot. And it has been a wonderful session. I hand over to...
Thank you very much, sir. Let's have a huge round of applause for the eminent panel and for our moderator, Shri Alok Kumarji. May I request Shri Pankaj Agarwalji, the Secretary, Ministry of Power, to kindly join us on stage and help us felicitate the panelists, sir. So if I could request you to felicitate the panelists. Can we have the mementos on stage? We start by thanking our moderator, Shri Alok Kumarji, DG, AIDA, and former Secretary, Ministry of Power. Let's have a huge round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much, sir, for sharing that very pertinent conversation. We request you, sir, to please help us thank Dr. Ashish Kumar Goel, Chairman UPPCL and General Secretary AIDA. Let's have a huge round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Shri P. Ravi Kumar, Chairperson, Karnataka ERC. Ladies and gentlemen, we can do better on that applause. I know we're all hungry, but thank you. Let's have maybe thank Dr. Srikant Nagulapalli, DG Power Foundation of India and Additional Secretary, Ministry of Power. Thank you very much, sir. Shri Gajendra Tiwari, Member MPERC. Let's have a huge round of applause. Shri Nilesh Kane, Chief Transmission and Mumbai Distribution, Tata Power Company. Let's have a huge round of applause. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Shri Abhishek Ranjan, CEO BRPL. We thank you, sir. And let's have a huge round of applause. Shri Abhishek Ranjan, CEO BRPL. Shri D. Radhakrishna, former Chairperson, Tripura ERC. We also have Shri Himanshu Chawla. Shri Himanshu Chawla, Head Regulatory Power Foundation of India. He was one of the presenters. May I request you, sir, to please accept the small token? Yes, after that. Of course, sir. Let's have a huge round of applause for Shri Himanshu Chawla, Head Regulatory Power Foundation of India. And with that, may I request Mr. Reji Pillai, President, India Smart Grid Forum, to kindly help us thank the chair for this session, Shri Pankaj Agarwal, Secretary, Ministry of Power, please. And now we invite the esteemed dignitaries to kindly step ahead of the dais and give us a group photograph, please.